welcome to Carers Talk, the podcast for carers, where we share advice, information and carers' experiences. My name's Michelle and I'm your host, and this podcast is brought to you by Carers Trust Solihull. We hope you enjoy. Today I'm joined by Amie Westwood, who is the Community Advice Hub Manager. Hello Amie.
Hi Michelle.
Thanks ever so much for coming on the podcast today. As you know, we are interviewing professionals and services so that maybe carers who can't come to some of our open days or training sessions, that they don't miss out on crucial information and that they can access it in their own time. So would you mind explaining a little bit about the Community Advice Hub, which is what today's episode's about, but also about your role within that?
Yeah, so thank you for having us on, really. It's a real pleasure to be able to do this. So I'm the Community Advice Hub Manager and I have been for the last 2 years, but I've actually worked for Age UK Solihull for nearly 16 years. So I've seen a lot of changes and lots of different projects come and go. So the Community Advice Hubs were set up when the Care Act came out in 2014, I think. So the local authority had a statutory duty to provide 2 hubs where people could access information and advice. So that's really why we're here, to be honest. So we're based in Solihull Library on the lower ground floor, technically the basement.
Yeah, finding it today, I mean, I haven't been to the hub in quite a while and I actually went to the library, but you're actually on the side of the building.
Yes. So as you go towards the main entrance of the library, there's a ramp down the side of the building.
On the left?
On the left, yeah, and we're at the bottom, and the door to us is opposite the entrance to Touchwood car park on Homer Road.
There's a big sign as well, isn't there?
There is a big sign. We know that it's not ideal for everybody, but there is a lift in the building. Yeah. So we know that getting up or down the ramp might be tricky for some people. So there is a lift available to help with that. And we're also based in Chelmsley Wood Library above Connect, so on the top floor. And again, there's a lift there. And our role really is to provide information and advice to anybody over the age of 18 that lives in the Solihull area. Okay. So you have to pay your council tax to Solihull and be over the age of 18, and we can support you really with any concern, worry, problem that you might have. So we're not the experts in everything because how can you be? But we do link up with over 1,000 organisations in the borough. So we might not know the answer, but we would know where you could get that specialist support. And we are really lucky because within the hub, we have partner organisations that we're partnered up with, the Carers Trust being one of them.
Yeah, we're one.
The Alzheimer's Society, BID services that support people with sight or hearing loss. Gateway look at healthy lifestyle choices, quit smoking, lose weight. They do health checks. And then we also work with Ideal for All that support people with disabilities to get into work or voluntary work. And People Plus that help people who have a direct payment from the council. And we're also in partnership with Oasis Mental Health.
Okay.
They were called Solihull Mind.
Oh, so that's changed.
So that's changed. They've left the Mind partnership and they're now known as Oasis Mental Health, but they still offer the same services. Yeah. So we're quite a large team, the hub team. There's about 30 of us, 30 members of staff, and we've all got different roles. So my role is to oversee the day-to-day running of both hubs. But within our team, we have benefit caseworkers. So we can support with any form filling that somebody might have. And what we like to do with the cost of living crisis, and because governments change and new things come along, we like to make sure that everybody is getting everything that they're entitled to. So we offer everybody a free benefits check. Because we find that not everybody realises what they can get, and it can be quite daunting if you don't know and you need some support. So we do that. Based on that, if you need any help to fill in any forms regarding benefits, we've got caseworkers that would do that for you.
And that's for free, is it?
Absolutely free. Yeah, all of our services are free.
That's incredible.
Sometimes there is a waiting list.
I can imagine.
Because some of those forms are very specialist and we would want to make sure that the right person filled that in for you because of how important it is and the information that goes on them. So we fill in any disability form. So we fill in PIP applications. You can have PIP from being born up to the age of 65.
Okay. And sorry, what is PIP again?
Yeah, so it's personal independence payment. Yeah. Formerly DLA or disability living allowance.
DLA. I remember that. Yeah.
So some people are still on DLA.
Yeah.
But majority are now being transferred over to PIP. And there's two rates. There's a daily rate, a standard rate, and an enhanced rate. And you can get that for your daily living care and your mobility. If you have got a health problem and you've had a health problem for 6 months or more and you're under the age of 65, then PIP is the one that we would encourage you to apply for.
Yeah.
If you're over 65, it's something called attendance allowance.
Yeah.
And again, there's two rates to that. There's a lower rate and a higher rate. Now, I think the forms are designed to put people off.
They are chunky.
I think they're about 47, 49 pages long.
Yeah.
And some of it is repetitive and designed to kind of catch you out.
Yeah.
In my opinion.
Yes.
So if we feel that somebody would be eligible for that, we would support you to fill that form in. And that would be with a caseworker that does them all the time.
And they know the lingo, wouldn't they?
Exactly.
And what the assessors would be looking for, because I think even someone who's quite competent with forms and filling things in could still struggle to fill in a form like that because they don't know what the assessor's looking for.
Definitely. Wording is the key. And you have to kind of explain things as if it's your worst day. So on the days where you might be in a lot of pain or finding things very difficult, that's how you answer your questions, because when the forms are sent off to the DWP, it's picked up by someone and they need to know or get a true picture of how difficult things can be for you.
Yeah.
So you're not lying.
No.
You're not exaggerating, but they need to know on the worst day you can have or you have had, how bad things can be for you or what level of support you need.
Yeah.
That way they get a true picture. If you say, I'm all right today.
It doesn't happen all the time.
It will get dismissed.
Yeah.
What we found with PIP forms is that on the first go, they tend to be turned down. If that happens, please don't worry. We can support with the mandatory reconsiderations.
Oh, that's good to know.
Where we ask them to relook at the form and the reasons why. Sometimes that can be turned down again and it will go to a tribunal hearing.
Yeah.
And we can support you with all of that. So we help you from applying for the form all the way to the end, really. And sometimes it can take over a year.
I've heard of it. Yeah.
For the whole process, if you've been refused. I do think it's disheartening for people. Sometimes we look at forms and think, how have they come to that decision?
Yeah.
But that's why our caseworkers solely work on that.
Yeah.
And can support throughout the whole thing.
That's incredible.
So we also help with council tax reduction forms, housing benefit, if that applies.
Because with council tax, I know that some people aren't aware of the kind of reductions you can get. I mean, some people know about single persons discount and stuff, but could you explain about what other
so
types?
If you're on a low income or you're on certain benefits like universal credit maybe, then you could be entitled to a further reduction on your council tax. And again, it's not something that is very widely told about. But also if you have somebody in your household that has maybe dementia or memory issues or a mental health issue that impacts their mental capacity, there is a further reduction as well. And it's not a nice term.
No.
It's called the severely mental impaired. So it's a horrible term for a form, but the person who has the health issue has to be in receipt of like the higher rate for PIP or the higher rate for attendance allowance. And you can claim a further discount on your council tax. And again, we would help with all of that. Also, if you use, perhaps because of health issues, you only use certain rooms in your house. Maybe, you know, some people can't use upstairs, or they have a bed downstairs.
Yeah, I think I heard of that one if you're using...
There's a disabled band relief as well. So again, sometimes they're not very widely explained, or you're told about it. And that's why we encourage everyone to come and have a benefits check. So if you're eligible, we don't want you missing out. And I think with how tight things have been with the cost of living crisis, every little bit helps.
It does. And that encouragement of people to, especially in the elderly community, they can be like, I'm fine.
Yes.
I'm managing. And also, which we discussed about earlier, that kind of the financial history of people.
Yeah.
And we were saying about how nowadays everything is income assessed.
Yes.
And it can be quite hard when you're trying to support someone, because that's sometimes the first question that we have to tackle.
That's it. It can be a real barrier. And, you know, we have a lot of people that where they have a loved one that perhaps has to go into care, or that choice is taken away and they've gone into hospital and that's the only option. Your finances are looked at very thoroughly with that. And sometimes I think the care element can go, and people's situations or the stress that they're under are not looked at all. It's solely just what money have you got. If you've saved all your lives, that plays a big part. If you've got a house, they take that into consideration. Or if you require some support at home or carers to come in and help you, again, you have to be financially assessed. So we want to make sure that if people do require support, they're getting everything they should be. And we find with people that need carers, they're not claiming attendance allowance.
Yeah, I've heard of that.
It's not means tested. You could be a millionaire and still claim it.
Because attendance allowance, for those who may not be aware, it is about supporting them with their condition, isn't it, to make life easier for them?
It is. Right? A lot of the questions are based on your health problem and what support you need. So it's whether you can, I always look at it, can you easily get out of bed in the morning? Can you jump out of bed? I know I can't. So
I roll.
Do you have to sit on the edge of the bed, swing your legs round, catch your breath, hold on to the bed or the bedside table, lift up, then get your balance to walk? The form, you have to break things down on the form like that. So I feel that we've all got health issues and we all adapt because that makes our life easier. The form asks you to break that down because you have been coping, you've adapted your ways of doing things. So we like to kind of probe a little bit, because if you say, I can get out of bed, well, you could, but it takes you 10 minutes.
Yeah.
And the same if you have to go to the toilet in the night, you've got to do that process again, go to the bathroom, come back, swing your legs back in, get comfortable, catch your breath. So it may sometimes come across that you're worse than what you are, and we don't want you to feel that way, but it's a true picture of how you manage.
Yeah.
So you manage okay because you've adapted and you've done different things. It asks about if you can get washed and dressed okay. But it also applies if you need some support with that. So if your loved one has to put your trousers on, your socks, your shoes, or prompt you to do those things, or make sure your clothes are out, so you know what you've got to wear that day. You know, it asks if you can cut your food. And I always ask as well, if people can, with mobility issues maybe, can you carry a cup or a plate from the kitchen to the living room or wherever you would eat or sit down. Because again, if you can't do that and you would need somebody to do that for you, it's those kind of things that need to be captured on the form, if that makes sense.
Yes, to build that picture.
Yeah, because people get by just fine. It's a struggle, but it may take you an hour to get dressed and have a wash in the morning.
Mm-hmm.
That needs to go on the form.
Yeah.
Because I think other people take it for granted that it could take us 10 minutes. But we like to make sure people know exactly what your day's like and how difficult that can be for you.
Yeah.
The forms also ask for any evidence that you may have. So any medical letters that you've got about your health conditions, whether that's a diagnosis of something or you're undergoing tests for something, any treatments that you might have had, your prescription list, anything to back up what you're saying.
Yeah,
really.
the story of what's going on.
The forms can take maybe up to 2-3 hours, depending on what your health problems are and how much support you need.
And are they done at your office or it's the home
So
visits?
we do them at the office, but we understand that that's not always easy. So home visits are offered as well.
That's good to know.
We do only work Monday to Friday, 9 till 5. So we can't do any later than that, or weekends, unfortunately. But we will try to accommodate as much as possible. And we know things crop up and life happens.
Yeah, especially if you're a carer as well.
Exactly, yeah. And, what you think you might have an hour there soon changes. So we can easily rearrange. It's no trouble at all.
And I think, as you've touched on with attendance allowance and all the kind of benefits that you've mentioned, I think if anyone is unsure of anything, that they've had their person they care for go into hospital or something like that, and they feel unsure about, things, they can come to you, can't they?
Absolutely. I think it's really daunting if you have never had to ask for any help before, and then you're in a situation that is quite scary and you don't really know what's going to happen to either of you. So I would encourage anybody to either come in to see us. We do have a telephone line as well.
I'll put that in the show notes below. Yes.
It can get busy, but if you leave a message, we do get back to you. We have an email address as well, and we have a website. We try to make it easy for people to get in touch with what's their preferred method, really. And we know, we're not easily located for parking, and at Chelmsley Wood as well. So we know that not everybody can walk in to us.
Because you do drop-in, don't you?
We do drop-ins, yeah. So at Chelmsley Wood, our drop-in is Monday, Tuesday, Thursday and Friday from 10 a.m. till 1 p.m. And in Solihull Library, we're Monday to Friday from 10 till 1. You don't need an appointment. You can just turn up and be seen. Sometimes you might have to wait if we're really busy. But amongst our staff, we also have a team of 30 volunteers that do various roles as well. So you shouldn't really be waiting too long. We aim for you to not have to wait. It might be that we can't solve everything in that session. We may have to book you back in for a proper appointment, or we may have to go away and look into what you wanted the help with. We always get your consent as well. So none of your details would ever get passed on without your permission to do so. But people can come to us with a range of issues. So alongside our benefits team, we have a debt caseworker. So he supports homeowners and private tenants and clients in housing associations with any debt issues.
Okay.
And we're aware that, with the cost of living, it's a huge issue at the moment and a huge worry for people. And we always find that nearer the winter time, debt seems to increase, and maybe January, February, when we've got through Christmas.
Yeah.
We're a very friendly team. There's no judgment. And we also know that some people find opening their post a bit daunting too. So we can support with that. And we have had people come in with bags of unopened letters.
Oh, gosh.
And sometimes that session just means we open a bit and see where we're at. there's no immediate, we've got to get everything done within an hour. It doesn't work like that.
No.
So, you know, we'll take our time and we'll do things at your pace. And we'll try not to overwhelm you. We also have an outreach worker. So she does home visits to people that can't come to us.
Oh, wow.
We have a disability caseworker who is a bit of jack of all trades. She does benefits, debt, and again supports people in their home. So she tends to support people with long-term health conditions and learning disabilities. We also have an older people's team. So we have 2 caseworkers that solely focus on older people and issues that can come with being an older person. And again, they do a lot of home visits or meet people where they're comfortable. It's not always, home isn't always the best environment either. So we have met people in cafes and the library, wherever they feel comfortable. So we're quite open to anybody. Anybody can come to us. We deal with people who are caring for a loved one and just don't know what to do, or their caring role has come very quickly and or unexpectedly.
Because you mentioned our partnership and we do, and we have had it for years, in the sense that we refer to each other.
Yes, all the time.
And that's really important, that if either of us, our services, pick up someone who may be caring, or for us, if someone we feel they need extra support with benefits, you know, we refer.
Yeah, I think it's really good in Solihull, the partnership working, and I think the hub reflects that very well. You know, some people don't know what's about, have no idea. And, you know, we all know life can change very quickly. So 1 minute you could be working and fine, and then something happens and your whole life changes. We're not judgmental in any way, and we're not the specialists in everything. So if a carer does present to us, sometimes they don't know they're a carer.
I was going to ask you that, actually. That's one of the questions, because you really are a really good point of access to meet carers. And I was going to say, do they even know?
No. And I was a carer, and I would never class myself as a carer because I was looking after my mum. And you'd think it's your mum, so that's what you do.
It's life. Yeah.
So we get a lot of people, because we're an open door. And following the pandemic, not many places are like that anymore.
Completely, yeah.
So people come in with all sorts of queries. So we often find people come in because they are caring for somebody and they just don't realise. And as we're talking to them, the whole point of the hub is to follow a holistic approach.
Yeah.
So you may come in for one reason, but we look at why that's occurred and how everything else is. So we have often carers come in, mainly financial worries, like everybody. But then when we say, well, what's your support at home? How are you? Well, I look after my husband. Okay, well, how's that? And then everything kind of tumbles out. And when we discuss the carers trust with them, most of the time people know of you, which is really good. Yeah. Sometimes people don't, and we like to encourage them to access your services, and we'll make the referral. But I think people sometimes think it's their duty.
Yeah.
I know I did. So it's making people aware that you are a carer and you need to be looked after. What we have found lately is that, I guess like all carers do, their needs are at the bottom of the pile.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And the person they're cared for is priority. And what we've found lately is that people's health needs, or carers' health needs, are being pushed to the side because their priority is the person they care for, and they don't want to go to have treatment at a hospital or even go for a checkup at the doctor's because they can't leave that person. And I feel there's a real gap for like emergency provision.
Yeah, sitting service, respite opportunities for carers to take the time to go to medical appointments. It is an issue.
It is. So we try to look at what support people have, whether they're in a position where they could pay for respite breaks or somebody to sit with somebody. But that's not always feasible. People don't always want to admit that they need that support either. So that's really a common theme we're finding at the moment. I found with clients that have accessed our support, the cared for person is really well cared for.
Oh, yes. Yes.
They are. There's no problems, but it's the carer we worry about, because people run themselves into the ground, and we always try to make sure that they feel like they're worthy. We do link up with adult social care.
Yeah, I was going to ask about that, because you do, don't you, with assessments and things?
Yeah, so we have a good relationship with adult social care, and we refer a lot of people to them. But we also try to encourage carers to have an assessment in their own right too.
And that's a carer's assessment.
A carer's assessment, yeah. We think that's really important that carers do that, especially if there is an emergency. But time's very limited as well. So we will do what we can to fight people's corner. And if we feel that a carer is under a great amount of pressure or is at breaking point, we will try to emphasise the urgency for that. It's really hard.
I can imagine. Yeah. And it is when the service isn't there.
Yes, yeah.
Or even when people are reluctant to accept help.
Yeah,
that can be really
which is
hard.
a common thing.
Yeah.
And I understand it's hard to admit you need some help sometimes. And it's hard to have people come into your home if you're not used to it.
Really hard, yeah.
And I think, I don't know how I would be if I had to have strangers essentially come in. But we are there to support through that process. We liaise with care agencies. We fight people's battles as well. So if we think that people have been treated unfairly, or the decision from another organisation isn't what we agree with, or they haven't put clients' best interests at heart, then we have no trouble in fighting corners.
That's great.
Really.
And I think for people, I think even for us sometimes, and who know about social care and the systems, it's hard to navigate. So coming from someone who maybe just been thrown into this world, it's daunting and it's frustrating.
It is. And I think services have changed so much over the years. What was available isn't available anymore.
Yeah.
And sometimes some services can only do certain things. So I think what we try to do is make sure people don't have to keep telling their story over and over again.
Yeah.
That they tell us once and we do the talking for them if they don't feel like they can do it themselves.
That's really good.
We try to empower people as much as we can, but sometimes life's hard and it's tiring. So if we can, hold a hand and support to get you what you need.
Yeah.
And then you never speak to us again.
And sometimes that's
fine.
That's all that people need, isn't it? It's like they just need help over the hump.
Yes.
And then and they grow their own confidence then, and they're on their way.
Yeah. Or just to sound something out if, they don't feel that's, right. Or we get people that ring for a chat because they don't have anybody else to sound off to. We're not authoritative in any way. There's always a cup of tea.
Oh, brilliant.
So we will just help really in any way that we can.
And we spoke before about, the idea of loneliness and isolation with, elderly people, especially coming out of COVID.
Yes. Yeah, we found, I think older people have had a really tough few years with lockdown and then the cost of living crisis. And people's independence has changed. If, you had to stay in a house for a long period of time, your mobility reduces and loneliness takes over. What we found as well is that with everything going online, people's communication skills have dwindled or their social interaction has changed. We found even with some services, you can't talk to people. You have to fill everything in online. That's not suitable for everybody.
It's a huge barrier for
it's
some
massive.
people.
Even if you go into shops now, they want a digital receipt.
Yes, they do.
You can't even get a paper receipt now.
Yeah.
It's not catering for people that don't have those skills or the ability to be able to use a computer or a smartphone. So we are running digital classes for older people who perhaps want to improve their skills or learn a new skill on the computer, which is here at our Solihull office. We do have volunteers that go to people's homes, but the idea is to tailor to you, really. So if you wanted to know how to do an online food shop or have an email address, we could work on those for you. Banking is moving online. And if people wanted to learn how to do that in a safe way, that's something that we can help with too. But we found there was a real need after lockdown for digital skills. Yeah. I mean, for all of us, but if you've never had to use a computer before, that's quite daunting.
Yeah, completely.
Too. And the world is changing
and information and support now, as we was talking about before, flyers used to be a thing. I remember when I used to go in the library, you could just pick information that you needed. But obviously since COVID, that's really dwindled.
It's all changed and now everything is a QR code.
Oh, yeah.
So you can scan a code and information will come up on your phone. It's a bit scary, really, where technology's going. But I think none of it takes into account people that can't do that. And our worry is some people go to banks or the post office, see people, have a chat. That's their social interaction for the day. If that's all taken away, people are just going to become more lonely and more isolated. So we do have clubs that we run across the borough. People can join those if you are living on your own or you feel lonely and isolated. We've got a club now most days of the week.
And where's that based? Is it all different areas? Or?
All different areas, which I can't quite remember.
That's fine.
Off the top of my head.
I can put the information in the link.
Because we've had some new ones that have just started. Some of them may have a waiting list, but we've just got some new clubs up and running.
That's great.
We can't always provide transport. That's the only thing. But it's a nice thing to do for a couple of hours to mix with other people if you felt that you wanted to do that.
And you can bring the person you care for in those things, can't you? So, I mean, we also do clubs and things like that, but sometimes the cared for person can't attend because of numbers and things like that. So having groups in the community, that's great.
Definitely. And we've also got a clubs list. So it details all the clubs and groups that are in the Solihull area. So from the north all the way down to Borsall Common. And that's available. We can send out to people, has all the contacts, the costs, what the club involves, who to ring to book. So that's always available to people to have as well if they wanted to.
That's great. I know we've spoken a lot about the elderly client, but you do go from 18, don't you?
We do. So we support anybody over the age of 18. So we get a lot of younger people accessing our service too, which is great. And we can support with housing applications. So again, if somebody wished to go on the housing register with Solihull Community Housing, that form's all online and the medical questionnaire is online. So we can support with that. Again, we help with any benefit related forms and we do a lot of blue badges.
Oh, okay.
So if people don't know, the blue badge is the disabled badge that you can put in your car to park nearer to shops and things like that. That form is online. So we can book an appointment with you. We can do that with you. It takes about half an hour, maybe 40 minutes, but we can support with all of that too. We also look at grants for things. So if people of any age where money can be tight, appliances break.
They do.
And usually at the worst time. Or people move into a property where they haven't got anything. We look at what grants would be available to get them the items that they need.
Yeah.
And we're lucky we work with Solihull Council for that. But also we work with other organisations that can provide things. And it may be that we can help with certain things if we have the funding available. But we get things like wardrobes or white goods, 2 beds for children, anything.
It's the essentials, isn't it? And sometimes we might not think of those things, but if you don't have them, you soon notice, don't you?
Yeah, definitely. And having a bed it should be a right.
Human
really.
Right, yeah.
So I would say to anybody listening, if you do worry about money and you have an appliance that breaks or you don't know what to do, it's always worth ringing and asking.
Yeah.
Because we may know pots of money in places, or who we could go to get you that. Usually you have to provide bank statements to prove you're not a millionaire. But we would, do all that application for you. I mean, there's so many grant organisations around. And again, based on your profession that we can tap into.
That's it, isn't it? And especially, I know from a carer's point of view, specific conditions as well.
Yes.
They have pots of money sometimes.
There's money everywhere, really. It's just knowing where we can tap into to get you that. Sometimes we can help with grants for carpet. It's not classed as an essential item.
But it should be.
But if you're caring for somebody and perhaps they can only stay in one room, we would look at that as a priority to get that room as warm and as comfortable as possible for you. We also run the winter warmth campaign on the subject of keeping warm. It runs throughout the whole year, but there's an emphasis from the 1st of November to the 31st of March. And it's funded by Solihull Council. And I should have said before, the hubs are funded by Solihull Council, but run by Age UK. Should have said that in the beginning, sorry. So the Winter Warmth campaign, from November to March, we have a dedicated helpline number.
Okay.
From 9 till 5, Monday to Friday, where if you are worried about your heating breaks down, or your boiler breaks, or you just don't know what to do to keep warm, please give us a call.
Yeah.
We have an emergency procedure in place. So if your heating breaks, we can get heaters to you the same day.
That's incredible.
So they are oil-filled heaters. So they are meant to be cheaper to run. But if you kept them on 24/7...
You'd have a bill.
We wouldn't advise it. But if we can keep one room, again, if you're caring for somebody, you have to keep warm. We would make sure that was the case. So the heaters would come out the same day. We also have a supply of duvets, blankets, hot water bottles, electric blankets. So anything we can do to keep you warm until the heating is fixed or looked at, then that's what we want to do. Our team, as I say, runs throughout the whole year, but they look at your fuel bills. I know things are just changing now where you can switch back to in between tariffs and different companies.
It's been a bit more flexible now, isn't it?
It is. They can look at what your usage is, what options would be best for you. One of my colleagues loves to have a battle with British Gas. She loves it. So, energy companies can be rotten.
They can.
And they can do horrible things. So we will challenge those too.
That's good.
So I would say if you are worried about your bills, especially coming up to winter, or you don't know if you could get a new boiler or a new insulation in your property, there's lots of grants and schemes available. We're working with Act on Energy as well at the moment. But if you have the old warm air heating, mainly in the north of the borough.
Oh, yes, yeah.
There may be, there are schemes available sometimes to help replace that. Mm-hmm. It's always worth giving us a call and we could look at the options for you. But during that, especially the cold snap, if your heating breaks, please give us a call, because the last thing we would want is for anybody to be really cold.
Yeah, anyone.
Especially if you're in bed and you can't move around very easily. Mm-hmm. You're going to be more prone to becoming poorly.
Yeah, it's fantastic service. We've discussed a lot, but really it is just scratching the surface of everything that you guys do.
Yeah, there's no limits, really. We'll make sure that people get the specialist support that they're entitled to, or they're in contact with the specialist agencies that can support them better.
Yeah.
We will help anybody. We're a safe place. We're also a hate crime reporting centre.
Okay.
So if people feel they have been a victim of a hate crime due to disability, race, sexuality, gender, we're a special place to report that. Mm. But we're happy to help anybody really that we can.
Yeah, and like I say, our organisation as well, we would really recommend your service. I feel it's one of those places that if you've got a question or you're struggling or anything like that, you can go to a hub and be seen by someone who will see the wood for the trees.
Yes, yeah. We're a one-stop shop, really. And we like a challenge. And we can't know the answers. So sometimes we do have to Google what help is available. We also run a legal surgery as well. So we work with 2 solicitors, the Wilkes Partnership and Sydney Mitchell. And they both offer clients that come through the hub and Age UK half an hour free legal advice.
That's really good.
So it can be on any matter and any issue. You don't then have to sign up with that solicitor or go with them, but you can take advantage of that half an hour free to talk about what's concerning you.
That's great. And would they just ring your service?
Yeah, just give us a call and we take your details and pass them on. But that can be a lifeline really with wills, probate, power of attorney, or, family issues, marriage breakdowns, challenging court decisions.
Life, really, isn't it?
Life, yeah. I mean, we can't give legal advice. So that's why we would recommend that you would have that half an hour so you get the answers that you need. Mm. We also work in partnership with Solihull Action through Advocacy, and they provide statutory advocacy support and community advocacy as well. So they're a real great source for people in the borough too.
That's incredible. Well, thank you, Amie. I think we've covered a lot there, and I hope those that are listening feel that way. But if you are out there and you are listening, please do drop into the hub, call them, email. All of the information will be in the description below. Yeah, so thank you very much, Amie.
Thank you very much.